Namaskar. Today I'm going to speak on the Atichari movement of Brihaspati or the fast forward movement of Jupiter and how it will affect India and various other countries. What are the long term trends that we see affecting the world and the nativities? I will do this video in Hindi as well, but right now it is in English, and that is what I'm sharing with you from the hills of Cochin. That's the view that you see. See, normally Jupiter in transit takes around almost 11 months to an year in a Rashi. When we say it is in fast forward movement, it means that it is covering Rashis or zodiac signs in less than a year. Okay, so 11 to 12 months is what usually is what Jupiter takes in one particular zodiac sign or Rashi. 2025 and 2026, these are the 2 years which will see Jupiter in three signs in 1 year, whether in forward or retrograde motion, which is not a normal precedent. Jupiter is currently in Taurus, in Rishabh Rashi. On the 14th of May 2025, Jupiter moves into Gemini or Mithun. On 18th October 25, Jupiter will move into Cancer. So in the year of 2025, it will traverse from Taurus to Gemini to Cancer. 3 Rashis in a year. Of course, it will again retrograde from Cancer and move into Gemini in December 2025. So if you actually look at it, there are more than 4 signs. Of course, Gemini will be the fourth, but it is the previous sign. And again, when we see this movement in 2026, then in till June 2026, Jupiter remains in Gemini and then remains in Kark or Cancer only for 2 to 3 months and then moves into Simha. So again, we have Jupiter traversing 3 signs in 2026. Bhavishya Bhaskar says that when we have the Atichari or the fast forward movement of Jupiter and Saturn retrogrades during that period, then it is a very, very troublesome period, not for the native or for the individual's horoscope, that depends on that particular individual's chart, but for the countries at large and specifically countries in the southern hemisphere. Now, Jupiter will be in Atichari movement starting May 14th, 2025. Saturn will retrograde in the middle of July 2025 and will remain retrograde for 138 days till almost the end of November 2025. So we know that this particular principle is falling true between mid-July 2025 till end of November 2025. This is the time when both the principles will ring true, will fall in place, which is the time of fast forwarded movement of Jupiter or Brihaspati and that of retrogression of Saturn. So those 138 days, specifically from 13th July 2025 till 28th November 2025, we see a lot of trouble happening. Brihaspati is not just Atichari for these 2 years, it will remain Atichari for 8 years till 2033. 8 years of this fast forward, erratic movement of the Guru of the Devas, Jupiter. In many of my previous videos, and many times I have quoted my Jyotish Guru as well, Ken Rao sir. He has said that by 2030, India will be a superpower. Remember, this will happen now during the period of Atichari when the West will see a downturn and the East will rise. It is for no reason that the sun rises in the East. Now is the time for the Sanatan Dharma to rise. This is not wishful thinking. This is going to be a reality, because it is the fire worshippers who will now prevail, if you understand what I'm saying. And I've said this many a time in my previous videos. Obviously, the language could have been different. During the war of Mahabharat, it is said just before the war of Mahabharat, for many years, Brihaspati was Atichari. And then the war happened. But it is not just about any war happening. Whenever Brihaspati is Atichari, remember that Dharma will rise. Now, whether it rises through suffering, we've all heard suffering ennobles. Whether it rises through suffering or through so much calamity that, even the atheist falls on his knees and says, well, there is a divine will, there is divine power, because such will be the calamity of nature, that there will be no other, that the belief systems of people will be questioned at large, that even the non-believers will turn to that higher consciousness, to the divine name of the Lord, and seek refuge in that name. The wheels of destiny grind slowly but surely. Atichari Brihaspati will make sure that the wheels of destiny, which of course would have grinded surely, but will now grind with a slightly high speed. So justice will be served. That is the point that I'm trying to make. Even in the war of Mahabharat, it is not just any war happening. It is the establishment of dharma over adharma. And Atichari Jupiter will make sure that happens. I will do another video on the predictions for 2025. This is not that video, but in fact, this is Atichari Brihaspati part 1, because it has 8 years and there are many layers to this set of predictions for Atichari Brihaspati. So this is part 1. However, I will be doing my usual yearly predictions for 2025, which I will share with you in a few days. I'm traveling in the south of India, and hopefully during these travels from another location, I will share that video as well. Now, Brihaspati was in a Jeev Rashi. Here's another point. Brihaspati was in a Jeev Rashi, Dhanu, Sagittarius, when we had the breakout or the pandemic of Corona. I've said it in many of my videos, Khand Pralay began from 2020. More people lost their lives in Corona than they had lost in a world war. So 2020 was no less. There was a lot of sacrifice, or when we say bali in the vernacular language, or many lives were lost. Now from 2025, again, that cycle is going to pick up. People who thought that 2020 was just a flash in the pan are mistaken, because 2025 will again bring about similar situations. Remember that from 1st of April 2025, Saturn will move into a Dvisabhav Rashi, which is Meena or Pisces. Rahu is already in Pisces at this point in time. Saturn and Rahu will make a conjunction in Pisces from the 1st of April 2025 till the 31st of May 2025 for 2 months. For 2 months, Saturn and Rahu will make a conjunction in Pisces, a Dvisabhav Rashi. When this happens, war breaks out. And air tragedies happen as well. There are fights on the waterfront as well. And I'm not just talking about these 2 months, I'm generally saying that that is the trend that we see during the period ahead. But the Saturn Rahu conjunction can darken the war clouds. War can intensify. So currently, we know that Russia and Ukraine, I've said it many times that US under the democratic leadership of Joe Biden was fighting a proxy war with Russia, aiming their gun on Ukraine's shoulder. But now we have a Republican candidate, Donald Trump. In his previous stint as president, there were no wars under Donald Trump. But enough damage has already been done. So even he might not be able to control the damage that might happen now. So it's not really Russia versus Ukraine, it is Russia versus Europe. Then you also have the other front where Israel is fighting Iran. And of course, there is Palestine as well. There is a Panchagrahi Yog that happens in the last week of March 2025. And then we have a partial solar eclipse on the 29th of March, which is not visible in India, but visible in many parts of the world. And immediately after the eclipse, we have the transit of Saturn. I will talk about this in detail in my yearly predictions video. But remember, from 1st of April, the shades, the darkened shade, which I'm telling you on which I'm telling you about 2025, you will start seeing the color of this darkened shade from 1st April when Saturn moves into Meena or Pisces from 1st of April 2025. Remember that World War I and World War II were fought under US presidents who were from the Democratic Party or Democratic candidates, Wilson and Roosevelt. So with this Atichari Brihaspati now, events will happen in extreme intensity. Financial institutions could fall. And this is more about the West than about the East. Economies can collapse. There could be a lot of natural calamity, and the time has come. The birds are chirping. Okay, they've stopped. I couldn't have in a natural environment that usually happens. One can't control the environment. So, well, from 1st April, we start seeing the dark clouds of war darken even a bit more. This entire period of Atichari Brihaspati, and I've said it many times previously, war, disease, and rioting, and natural calamities. Even the non-believers, as I said previously, will start believing in the divine power. Till the time we have a Republican candidate in the US, China will not be able to trouble India to the extent that it would want to. With this plan that China has of building the dam on the river, with the Brahmaputra river, which could mean that there could be a lot of dislocation on Brahmaputra's route down from Tibet, which is into Assam and other plains. That's a 5 year plan, and that would be one of the world's largest dams that China is planning. It's a 5 year plan. And I've said in many of my previous videos that it is only when Saturn enters Taurus that India will feel the pinch. And Saturn enters Taurus towards the end of the decade. So we will see the shade from mid-year 2029, but more so from mid-year 2030, when India too will have to take sides in this polarized world. And those would be a difficult 2.5 years for India as well. But before that, definitely till mid-year 2027, the economy of India is on a rise. See, from now on, wars might not just be atomic in nature, they could be biological in nature. So it is really the germ warfare. Corona was part of the germ warfare, and China was at the root of it. More such wars are in the offing, and these wars mean large scale pandemics. Smallpox, which is no longer prevalent, but if you go back 30, 35 years, you know that every child was vaccinated against smallpox. The virus is still in the Russian laboratories. If Russia decides to unleash it, many would lose their lives. And China is at the helm of such things, of this germ warfare. Corona was unleashed on an unexpected world. And look at the travesty, look at the tragedy. Atichari Brihaspati, and this is another trend that I'm sharing with you. Atichari Brihaspati is going to bring about another thing, which is that Christian and Muslim countries will fight, and I've said this in many of my previous videos. World over, Christian and Muslim countries are going to fight. Belief systems are going to be questioned. Countries will change their belief systems, not just individuals. Countries will change their belief systems, whether it be Malaysia or it be Indonesia. Amongst others, I'm just giving examples of two. (2025, 26), when Jupiter moves into three Rashis, in both these years, we'll also see a lot of communal tension in our country. And I will do a detailed video on this, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi will not be able to complete his term in this particular. These 2 years will be very formidable years for the ruling government as well in India. There'll be so much of firefighting in 2025 that will be a very difficult period for the ruling government. And as I said, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will not be able to complete this particular term as the Prime Minister. I will do a separate video in detail on this, where I will discuss the chart of India and the Prime Minister's chart and share this with you. This is part 1 of Atichari Brihaspati. I will share more such videos and remain connected with you.